Hi Year 6, this is your science lesson for the week. It's your second lesson on animal classification. Hopefully you enjoyed last week's activity whereby you were classifying misdemen and you were thinking about the different characteristics they held. Well, this week you're going to be looking more at animal classification and the system that was developed by Linnaeus. So your learning objectives this week are to know the difference between invertebrates and vertebrates and develop that understanding, to understand who developed our classification system and what it does to help us, and then to be able to draw your own classification key for a given set of animals. Before we start our main activity, I would like you to reflect back to your morning task today. There was a reading comprehension on the Google Drive which talked all about Linnaeus and how he developed the process of classification. He was a zoologist and biologist, and that reading comprehension should have given you a good grounding before you start today's science. Just to give you a bit of a recap though, there's a short video for you to watch now, in the sort of horrible history style. Obviously he's not still alive today, but he talks as if he is. Enjoy watching.
What's up, peeps? Oh, do you like my relaxation tape? It's called Sounds from the Jungle. Welcome to my vlog, guys, all the way from my hometown here in Sweden. I'm Linnaeus. For those of you who are new to my channel, I am a botanist and zoologist, which basically means not only that I love plants and animals, but that I am a scientist who specializes in the science of plants and animals. Today, I wanted to share with you, my lovely subscribers, my biggest scientific achievement. Taxonomy is a one-stop shop for all the info you need to know about an organism and how to determine what it is. An organism is a single living thing, so it can be an animal, plant, or a single-celled life form. Got it? I'll give you some inside info on my scientific method of formally classifying and naming organisms according to their genus and species. I formed the system of taxonomy when I was sent to Lapland on a research expedition. It was there that I started to gather data and samples of plants I put into practice. Practical scientific method. This involved the key skill of observation, collecting data and recording my findings. Prior to my method, it had been difficult to work out which species were related and where new species belonged. So exclusively for you guys, I am going to tell you the classifications that I have broken down animals into. They are Classes 1, mammals. Classes 2, birds. Classes 3, amphibians. Classes 4, fish. Classes 5, insects. Classes 6, worms. Pretty ingenious, eh? It also helps that creating this classification has made me pretty popular. Let's just say my subscribers have certainly gone up since I devised it. My new system means each organism will have a two-part Latin scientific name. The system I devised classified different organisms through hierarchy. Hierarchy meaning how important and powerful each organism is. This determines each organism's ranking. The most amazing thing about what I've developed is that every plant and animal, including us humans, is classified under a group, so no matter what language you speak and where you are across the world, the group of organisms will always be called the same. Take us humans, for example. We will always be classified as Homo sapiens, no matter where someone might be in the world. And a house cat would be Felis catus. It's ingenious, isn't it? Even if I do say so myself. I put my findings into a book in 1753, which is called The System of Nature. I'm hoping that my book really takes off. It's available now, if any of you lovely subscribers want to buy it. Right, peeps, so now that I've told you what organisms are classified under, you'll be able to put this into practice and test it out for yourselves. Maybe you could use the system of taxonomy to work out what category a dog or a rabbit falls into. I've got to dash as I'm going on another expedition for some Vertebrate samples. Oh, and just so you know, Vertebrate are rocks. Bye!
I hope you enjoyed that recap on Carl Linnaeus. Now, it's been quite a while since you've done anything on animals in science, and I thought it would be a good idea for you to watch a couple of videos so you got a better understanding of what an animal is when it's a vertebrate or an invertebrate. And there's a couple of videos I'd like you to watch now. They're played back to back in this video, so you can just watch this.
The world is full of many different types of animals. Some swim, some fly, some breathe air, and some breathe underwater. Some have skeletons, and others don't. To help us understand the differences between the animals in our world, scientists classify or sort animals into different groups that share important characteristics. The two largest groups of animals are vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates are animals that have spines or backbones. Invertebrates are animals that do not have backbones. Most of the animals in the world are invertebrates. Some examples of invertebrates are octopus and squid, insects, arachnids, starfish and sea urchins, jellyfish, crabs and lobsters, clams, and many more creatures. On land, most invertebrates are fairly small, but in the water, they may grow to much larger sizes, as the water will support them even without a skeleton. Vertebrates make up less than 5% of all animal species on Earth, but if I asked you to think of an animal, you would probably choose a vertebrate. Vertebrates are divided into different classes or groups. Several of these classes are specific types of fish. For example, jawless fish, like lampreys and hagfish, and cartilaginous fish, like sharks and rays. For simplicity's sake, these other classes are usually lumped together with bony fish and just called fish. The four remaining classes of vertebrates will all be very familiar: amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Let's look at the characteristics that make an animal a fish. Fish live in the water, and they can breathe underwater. They use gills, not lungs, to get oxygen from the water around them. Fish have scales and fins. They are cold-blooded, which means that they cannot control their own body temperature, which changes based on the temperature of the environment around them. Most fish also lay eggs. Amphibians are a group of animals that include frogs, toads, newts, salamanders, and more. Amphibians, like fish, are cold-blooded. Unlike fish, amphibians can live on land and in the water, and have smooth, moist skin. Amphibians lay their delicate jelly-covered eggs in the water. When the eggs hatch, the young may not look much like their parents, because some amphibians must go through metamorphosis, or a big change, to become adults. Aside from some fish, amphibians are the only vertebrates that undergo metamorphosis. Reptiles you might know are turtles, snakes, crocodiles, and lizards. Like fish and amphibians, reptiles are cold-blooded. Unlike them, reptiles are air-breathing animals and cannot breathe underwater. Even reptiles that live in the water must come to the surface to breathe. You can tell if an animal is a reptile instead of an amphibian if it has dry, scaly skin. Most reptiles lay eggs, but they are very different from the eggs of amphibians or fish. Their eggs are laid out of the water and have a protective shell. For the most part, reptile eggs have soft, leathery shells. Birds are easy to recognize. They are the only type of animals in the world to have feathers. Like reptiles, birds can only breathe air. All birds have 2 legs, and all birds also have wings, but not all birds fly. Unlike fish, amphibians, and reptiles, birds are warm-blooded. That means that they can maintain a constant body temperature. Birds lay eggs, but unlike the eggs of reptiles, birds' eggs have hard shells. The last group of animals we are going to talk about is mammals. Mammals are the group of animals that humans belong to. Like birds, mammals are warm-blooded and breathe air. Even mammals that live in water must come to the surface to breathe. All mammals have at least some fur or hair, although some have less than others. Almost all mammals give birth to live young instead of laying eggs, and all mammals feed their babies milk. A fun fact about mammals is that mammals are the only animals to have ears that stick out. The animal kingdom is classified into many different groups based on animal characteristics to help us understand the world around us. Saying an animal is an invertebrate, a vertebrate, a fish, amphibian, reptile, bird, or mammal tells us many things about it that can help us to understand its needs and behavior. I hope you enjoyed learning about animal classification today. Goodbye till next time.
This second video should add to your understanding a little further.
Vertebrate and invertebrate animals.
Oops! Ouch! Ouch! No, 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 no! Ah! Ouch! Ooh!
Animals are everywhere. Some of them live in the water, others fly, and many others are terrestrial. All of them share 2 key features. They can move around and eat other living beings. The animal kingdom is the largest and most diverse of living things. It is so diverse that we need to classify animals in groups to be able to study their characteristics. Great English naturalist Charles Darwin knew a lot about studying and classifying animals.
Hello, everyone. The animal kingdom can be classified into 2 large groups. Vertebrate animals that have a vertebral column or spine, and invertebrate animals that do not have it.
Vertebrate animals are more developed than invertebrates because their bone and muscle structure allows them to grow more and move around better.
Vertebrate animals can be split up into the following groups: fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals.
Fish live in rivers and seas. Their body is covered by scales. They have fins to swim around and gills that allow them to breathe underwater. Amphibians have 4 limbs. They are born like fish and develop until they turn into terrestrial vertebrates.
Amphibians turn into this?
No. A crocodile is not an amphibian, but a reptile. Similar to fish, the skin of reptiles is covered by scales and have 4 limbs to move around, except for snakes that drag themselves along on the ground. Many of them know how to swim. Birds are covered with feathers. They have a beak, 2 legs and 2 wings that allow them to fly, though not all of them know how to do it. Birds lay eggs, like most fish, amphibians and reptiles. And finally, we have mammals, the most developed group of vertebrates, and the animal kingdom. Their young develop inside their mother's womb until they are born. Then they are fed with the mother's milk. Some mammals fly, and others live in the water, though most of them are terrestrial.
Got it! All the animals that live around here are vertebrates. But Where are the invertebrates?
Those animals go more overlooked, but they are more numerous than vertebrates.
Did you know that of 100 animals that live on Earth, 98 are invertebrates? Invertebrates can also be classified into several groups.
Spiders, insects, and crabs are arthropods. They have legs to move around on land or sea, and some of them also fly. All of them have an external skeleton that protects their body. Mollusks have a soft body. Some of them have a shell and others have long tentacles. There are terrestrial and marine mollusks. Of the invertebrates that only live under the sea, the following stand out. Sponges that have a sac-shaped body and are not mobile. Jellyfish that have tentacles and move around freely. And starfish that drag their odd body along the sea floor. And let's not forget about a group of invertebrates we are all familiar with, worms. Those terrestrial or aquatic animals with an elongated body and without legs.
What?
Hopefully now you've developed a better understanding of the animal world, you can sort out a set of animals I'm going to give you into their own characteristics, using your scientific knowledge and your scientific language to do so. When you practiced last week with your Mr. Men characters, you had to ensure that you asked enough questions to take each character into its own individual box. It would have looked something along these lines as you sorted it out based on specific characteristics that each one had. As you created your dichotomous key, you should have identified a group of creatures with similar characteristics to first sort them out, and then slowly determine more specific characteristics as you went further down your tree. This is the sheet today that I'd like you to either print out and cut out, or you can draw your own version of it and cut it out, or you can just use scraps of paper with the names of the creatures written on it for you to move them around easily. And writing questions on scraps of paper also helps you to be able to make your dichotomous key on a table before you perhaps write it out in best. As you're coming up with your questions, just remember to think really carefully about the language of invertebrates, vertebrates, mammals, amphibians. Do they lay eggs? Do they give birth to live young? Where are their habitats? All those sort of scientific things that will help you sort out your creatures this week. I hope you enjoyed the task and I look forward to seeing those that you send in.